You know, the last Voyage to Demeter, I wanted to actually go see this movie. I got off work one day because I've been working a lot of overtime. And thank God I'm working a lot of overtime. But I said, man, that movie should be playing out there at the theater, at Cinemark. So I got on there, it wasn't playing. So everything else was playing except for that. Uh, and the other thing was, I'm like, that was the weekend it was released, right? So I'm like, I'm not driving 30 miles down the street just to go see this movie. So I decided to wait. But I was like, oh, I can't wait to see this movie because I seen the previews to it and stuff. So I'm like, oh man, this movie's gonna be pretty good. Now, this movie is sitting at a 48 Rotten Tomatoes. It's a lot. It's an hour and 59 minutes. It's a horror fantasy. But man, I enjoyed this movie. Again, in all my videos, you guys do realize I do always talk about how I like movies. I don't really get on here now. If you need an in-depth review, something like this, I suggest to go to Cody Leach and Drum Dum. They'll break this stuff down. There's other reviewers out there, but I used to follow those guys like 3 years ago, and they was just I used to love their station. I don't get into it as much as I used to, but I think they're really good with stuff like this. They're into that horror stuff. So I'm telling you, they be ones to slice and dice this. But for me, I love this movie. And this movie is going to be bought on 4K when it's available. But I did buy it digital. But that's just what I do. But anyway, I'm going to read the plot synopsis and we'll go from there. A crew of a merchant ship, the Demeter, set sail from a Carpathia to London to deliver a cargo of 50 unmarked wooden crates. However, they soon discover they're not alone as Dracula, unholy presence, turns the trip into a nightmarish fight for survival. Now, this, I ain't gonna lie, it took me 2 days to watch this movie. And the reason why it took me 2 days is because I've been working 11 hours a day, 9 to 10 on Saturday, and my paychecks have been looking fat. But so when I sat down, I started watching it. I could tell I was going to get into this movie, but I was so sleepy and I wanted to stay up and watch this movie. But I was like, man, next thing I know, I was out. I was like, fell asleep, woke up. And then during the day, I like to work out because I had a couple vacation days because it's, tomorrow is a holiday. And so I'm like, I'm going to watch this movie. So I didn't watch it till late last night. So I was like, okay, I said to myself, Vic, do not fall asleep on this movie. I want to see if it's as good, And I started over because I bought this movie and I started over and man, I ain't gonna lie, boy, man. Just the way it was shot. I kept sitting there going, man, this guy, the director of this movie is just like, man, so I had to look it up. And director of this movie, his name is Andre Ordoval is his name, or Dre Orbital. But anyway, he's from, I think he's from overseas, director or something. I should have wrote down, but I know why I like this movie because I also like the movie that he directed was called The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Love that movie, and I stumbled across that movie because I was like, oh, this looks pretty interesting. So I got it, I watched it, and I talked to a lot of other people, and they love that movie. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, he directed that movie. He also directed The Troll Hunter, which I love that movie. I can still watch that movie today. That movie came out in 2010. Autopsy of Jane Doe came out in 2016. Then I went to the theaters to go see Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Love that movie. That movie came out in 2019. I got that on 4K. But anyway, which reminds me, I think I'm going to try to get the Autopsy of Jane Doe on 4K as well. But anyway, the movie opens up. I love the setting. I love the way it was shot. Whoever designed the ship design, as you got ship, there's parts in there where this little boy also played in the movie Cobweb, that little boy. But this Dracula thing, he ended up picking people off one by one. Here's the thing. Pardon me. Uh, it kind of looked like an alien on a ship type of thing because the way the movie was shot. I heard other reviewers talk about they thought it was too dark. They wanted to see more Dracula and all that kind of stuff. Me, I had no problem with that because I felt like when last night I had my surround sound going, I had all my lights off, so I'm like, I felt like I was inside that ship, especially when they was talking, the little boy was telling about like how you knock on the wood this way, and it showed how the knock would echo all the way through the ship so everybody could hear. That was neat. It's just the little things and the way they designed the ship. It actually looked like you were on the ship. So, and you know, the crew, the cast was awesome. I was gonna write all the people's names down, but I decided not to. But I thought the cast was awesome. I also liked how they started realizing. I think deep down they knew that they were pretty much doomed. You know what I mean? Because they were sitting there and they were like, there was just things in there that was happening. It was just blowing their mind. Like this one guy, he, you know, when he got attacked, you know, the next day, you know, because he was trying to kill that little kid, and that little kid ended up getting bit by the Dracula dude, and then that kid died. But then when daylight come, they had that guy outside, and he ended up burning up. So they're all freaked out watching this guy get set on fire. But this girl, she was inside one of those caskets, and what this thing was doing was he was feeding on her to, you know, just getting, and she had bites all on her and stuff, and I'm sitting there going, and then this black guy that's in the movie, I can't think of his name, he's a doctor, and he was giving her blood transfusions to try to keep her alive, to get this other blood out of her or something like that, because putting his blood in her. She ended up, you know, doing okay, but she died in the end too, because it was pretty cool how she died, because I thought that they all was gonna die, but all of them didn't die. But the captain died, the second in command captain who wanted the ship was gonna die. They said they had to sink the ship. They had to sink the ship to get that thing, because this thing was wanting to go to London so that Dracula thing can have a whole bunch of people to feed on. But when I was watching this movie, I'm like, okay, how did they talk? Who made a deal with Dracula to get him put in the casket with 50 other crates? And what was in the other 50 crates? Because there was a part where they was inside the hall going around the ship. I'm telling you, man, whoever designed this ship did a good job, because I'm going to give them props, because when I was watching this, it actually looked like you was inside the ship. All the little areas, the nooks and crannies, they're doing a great job. And the way the Dracula guy was, I liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. I heard a lot of people didn't like it. They said, oh, I kind of wish I would have seen Dracula. I kind of wish I would have seen more of it. But, man, I thought the way that he was picking them off in the dark, and the way he was looking, and the way he was appearing, and the silhouettes and all that kind of stuff. Shoot, man, I had no problem with this movie. I had no problem with this movie. None whatsoever. Period. I love this movie. This movie is definitely going in my collection of 4K, because, whoo, man. After I got done watching last night, I said, man, this is a really good movie. And I see why I really wanted to go see this movie in the theater. This movie would have been awesome to watch in the theater. And you know, this movie sucked at the box office. Nobody really went and seen this movie. Kind of too bad, because I think this movie should have done a lot better. But it just didn't connect with people. It connected with me, though. And it connected me to the point where I'm going to drop money when it comes out on 4K. But like I said, this is a good you know, horror fantasy movie, and you know, it's just it was just a good movie, you guys. I really enjoyed it. So that's about all I have to say. Like I said, if you really want to get you know, I did listen to Jeremy John. I like his but he's not a horror station. He's just Jeremy John, and he did a good job reviewing this. And I thought. Of course, you guys know who Chris Strutman is. You know, he is no horror channel either. He's just, him and Jeremy John's more of an everything kind of guy when it comes to viewing. But if you really, to me, but Jeremy John and Chris Strutman is really who got me interested before I was interested. I didn't know they watched it. But then when I said, oh, they watched this movie, so I'm gonna see what they had to say. So they did a good job reviewing it. They didn't say it was this, they didn't say it was that, because these guys are really good. They're seriously good. But if you want somebody who's into blood, guts, and gore and slash and all that, I'm telling you, Cody Leach and Drum Dum, those are the ones. I have nothing in common with those guys. I don't even collaborate with them. I'm just telling you, these are the guys I used to watch like 3 years ago. I do not watch them anymore. But I did see Jeremy John and Chris Strutman. And I was like, I was gonna go to theater, but it wasn't playing in my little town. So I'm like, man, I ain't going 30 miles down the road to go watch it. So I was like, well, they didn't give it a bad review. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. So I bought it, and it's money well invested. So anyway, God bless, take care, and we'll catch you next video. We'll see.